The other thing people are going to learn is how to deal with doubt and self-sabotage, because that's a big thing. A lot of people say, well, yeah, I believe in this and I'm working on manifestation. But not only do they do the wrong things, but they also sabotage themselves. They just don't really believe it. So I'm going to be teaching people how to get over that. There's a number of techniques that I use. And they'll also find out, when I talk about 7 keys, how to language it properly, the right mind state, the right heart state. A lot of people think this is nothing more than meditation, but we've actually done brainwave studies on Power of 8 groups and found that it's nothing like meditation. It's actually creates the absolute opposite effect. Power of 8 groups have brainwave effects that are almost identical to those recorded by neuroscientists at University of Pennsylvania, notably Dr. Andrew Newberg, who found that within a very short period, Buddhist monks and Sufi masters go into a state where they turn off the parts of the brain that make them feel separate. They also turn off the parts of the brain, like the right frontal lobes, that are involved with worry, doubt, and negativity. They enter into a state of ecstatic oneness. And that is identical to what we have recorded with a team of neuroscientists in Power of 8 groups, including with absolute novices, student volunteers. We did the study at Life University, one of the most prestigious chiropractic universities in the world. And a team of neuroscientists got together a bunch of student volunteers, and we recorded these really immediate and quite profound brainwave changes just during those Power of 8 groups. Those people, even total novices, went into a state of ecstatic oneness. So I teach people the right mind state and how to do it. And as I said, languaging is key. Most people aren't specific enough. So I show them how to be specific for every possible situation, whether it is intention for their health, relationships, career, finances, even their life's purpose, and so forth. So we'll be learning all of that, and also all the rudimentaries of how to run a Power of 8 group in this course. So it'll be a good packed day, and you'll meet people. You'll be put in a Power of 8 group from the very get-go. And by the end of the day, these people will be your new best friends.
Yeah, I was reading about that, and I was very interested to see that it's not only the person who needs the healing who is focused upon in these Power of 8 groups, but every single person gets that healing themselves.
Absolutely, Jane. That's the remarkable thing about Power of 8 groups. That even when you're doing the sending, not just receiving, you get healed too. And that is amazing to me. I call it the mirror effect. And it's quite remarkable because I've seen when many people are stuck, I run year-long classes with a master class that I run for an entire year. I put people into groups and I monitor them and work with them. And I find that when people are stuck, I oftentimes will say to them, well, get off of yourself. Try intending for someone else. This person over here needs intention more than you do, and see what happens. And invariably, that shifts the dial. I'm thinking of a woman called Andy, who was going through a divorce, had 2 young children, needed a job. She had sold her gift store, and she needed money. And she just couldn't get a job. And she was a very talented coach, a very talented marketer. She couldn't get anything. So I finally said, Andy, get off of yourself. Let's intend for this young boy, Luke, who tried to commit suicide after breaking up with his first serious girlfriend. And she did, as did the rest of my class. We did it for Luke. on 3 successive Sundays. Luke had broken every bone in his body. He had nerve damage, brain damage. And as a result, with our intention, even though doctors hadn't thought he was going to live, by the end of it, Luke got out of the hospital in record time, and he's now a normal, healthy young man in his early 20s. But the key thing here, the key thing was that Andy got a call out of nowhere the following week from someone she didn't know offering her her dream job.
Wow.
So I see that over and over, Jane, this extraordinary mirror effect.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I think there's a quote in spirituality, Lynne, that service is the highest form of divinity. Have you heard that quote?
I haven't heard that, but I really believe it. I see it all the time. When I was doing my book, The Power of Eight, I was trying to figure out how come these groups are so effective. And I'm going to show you shortly 2 little videos to show you how effective they are. Okay. But I was amazed, and I started looking into trying to figure out, well, how come people heal essentially in an instant with these Power of Eight groups? Because I only have them hold this intention for 10 minutes, never more. And I found that a key piece is altruism. When you look at the science of altruism, it's like a bulletproof vest. People who do things for other people live longer, healthier, happier lives. If you're ill with something and you try to help someone else with the same illness, you yourself are more likely to heal. And so I see that altruism is a key piece of a Power of Eight group. You are not just intending for yourself, you're intending for 7 other people. And so most of the time you're intending for someone else, and yet all of that is healing too. And I have as many people who have been healed being the senders as the receivers.
Well, we need more of this work in the world, Lynne, as you know. I mean, because the state of the world at the moment, it's so divided. If more people can come together with this altruistic practice, what a change it could make. And I know you did that global experiment at the beginning of this year for global peace, the intention experiment. That was an incredible experiment. How did that work out this year?
Well, we have a sneak preview of the results. Okay. Yeah. It was February 1st, and I ran it live at the Gaia Sphere, which is the headquarters of Gaia. And we both had an audience in front of me, big audience, but we also ran it live stream with thousands of people. So we had to wait patiently. We focused on Washington, D.C., and because it's a scientific experiment, we wanted to focus on 3 areas that were the most violent parts of Washington, D.C. D.C. is a violent city. It was at one point, I think recently, considered in certain parts having 600 times the violence of the average in other American cities. It's a very violent place. And we focused on the 3 most violent areas where there are gangs, there's lots of drugs, and so forth. And we did our experiment February 1st. And we also chose that bit because it's right across the river from the Capitol building. And we did the intention only a week or 2 after the inauguration of President Trump. So we wanted to make sure that it was not violent, there wasn't all kinds of uprisings, etc. We wanted to create peace and also create peace going forward in the Capitol. So we had all these kinds of ideas in mind. So we did the intention, and we had to wait patiently for months to see how it would pan out compared to before. And we found, looking at the 3 areas, all 3 had an amazing drop right after our intention. It is quite extraordinary to see the graphs.
Yeah.
we are still
Amazing,
working
amazing.
out longer term things. We want to look at it with a statistician as we have the others. I'm a material want to be. Amazing. But the other thing about it is I also surveyed the participants, and we have thousands of people who responded saying their relationships were improved, their health was improved. And we did other studies showing that when you do this kind of group intention, we did tests of 44 people in the audience before and afterward. We found a huge drop in stress among these people, but also a regularizing, a healing of their nervous systems. Because most of us these days are on sympathetic nervous system dominance. You know, we're on permanent fight or flight. Our cortisol is pumping through us, and it's very unhealthy to continue having that kind of dominance. And we found, studying them before and afterward, doing our test on them before and afterward, that sympathetic nervous system dominance really calmed, and their nervous systems were far more balanced.
Yeah.
Terrific. And I wanted to ask you, Lynne, about Gaia, actually, an incredible service. I've been watching it a lot more lately. Incredible documentaries and stuff there. And obviously your own documentary, The Power of Intention. What was it like working with Gaia? And are you really happy with the content in the documentary?
I loved the content. I loved working with them. And we're doing a follow-up now. We're just about to start the follow-up documentary that will eventually be amalgamated into the one we've done thus far. So it will have the result in there. So we invited people. We did the documentary that it ultimately ended up inviting people to be part of the live experiment. So we're going to show them then what happened. Not only to Washington, but also to the participants, and what happened to the audience, and how there is this extraordinary mirror effect. So I want to show your viewers, if I may, how powerful these Power of 8 groups are. So these are the smaller intention groups. These are the ones that are done with just a group of 8 or so. And by the way, it doesn't have to be exactly 8. It can be 7, it can be 5, it can be 12, as long as it's some sort of a group. Now, let me just share my screen 1 second. So I've got to just share this and share the sound. Okie doke, and just turn off this so everybody can see it. Hang on once. And yeah, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to just get rid of this bar here.
That's good.
Okay, can you see it without any meeting control?
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to show you what happened. This is a woman called Lisa Pickles, who is British, and she was born with a genetic liver disorder. So her liver was never working properly. Her spleen was enlarged, and it was deteriorating. And doctors told her there was no cure, and she was going to be a candidate soon for a liver transplant. So here's what happened in her own words.
So I'm Lisa Pickles, from a small village in West Bradford, in Lancashire, in Great Britain. I was diagnosed with alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency that was deteriorating my liver. 2018, I got the letter that said that my liver had really deteriorated. I now had sclerosis of the liver, and also my spleen was enlarged. So the conventional doctor was saying, you know, there isn't anything at the moment, there's still trials being done. it could look like a liver transplant. So really, really scary outcomes. I've got 3 young children. I'm clearly really panic-stricken, you know. I went down lots of not very nice rabbit holes. So when I got the diagnosis that things had really deteriorated, I was on this new path, a spiritual journey, and I'd gone to, obviously, the Power of 8. And I was sitting in the Power of 8 circle. I felt some tingling in the palms of my hands, but nothing really in the circle. It was that evening when I saw the most profound green light in my inner eye, and then what I felt was like a cold sensation that was all around my torso, and then I felt this shooting of cold air going out of my left foot with this green light. So I got a secondary letter after the Power of 8 healing, and this is what it said. Dear Lisa, further to your scan on the 5th of November, I am very pleased to say that your liver, biliary tree, gallbladder, pancreas and kidneys are all normal. In particular, your spleen is of a normal size and appearance. We also measured any evidence of fibrosis within the liver, and there is none. I hope you are reassured by this, and we look forward to seeing you in clinic in due course. Best wishes, Dr. Healing.
Now, that was one doctor. She also had a second consultant tell her months after her Power of 8 group, with no other intervention, that her liver was normal. And it is still normal some years later.
Wow.
Now here's somebody else, another so-called no-hoper. This was Lori McLeod. Lori had double retina damage and was going blind. She had gone to many doctors, and they said there was nothing they could do for her. Here's her story in her own words.
I'd seen many doctors before that. I went to Denver to a retina specialist who said, you really don't need to come back because there's nothing we can do. We could always just check to see how much worse it's getting, but there's really no need. So when I moved to Fort Collins, I established a new physician, and I'd already been working with the intention group. And I think I went and saw her like on a Monday. The following week, she had set me up to see a retina specialist and cataract specialist. And in between that time, our intention group, one of the intentions was to heal my retina damage.
And here's what happened.
So when everyone did the intention for me, and during those 10 minutes, I could feel like this little bubbling feeling. It's hard to explain, but I could feel things happening in each of my eyeballs. That's all I can say, deep into my eyeballs. It was almost like if water was bubbling. And in that moment, and it gives me goosebumps right now even talking about it, but in that moment, I knew I was healed. And I was just so filled with love and gratitude for the group that really held that space for me for the healing.
You can see the picture?
You can see that picture.
You can see the picture in the hallway?
I just started crying. My daughter was with me, and it was like the most joyous moment in my life. And my daughter actually took me for a ride, and it was the first time in 9-10 years that I could actually read the street signs. And if it wasn't for this intention, my retina damage would still be causing blindness. So the power of intention has healed my retina damage, and I'm currently seeing 20/20. Very powerful.
So that is how powerful it can be.
Yeah.
And I see hundreds and hundreds of these, thousands of them. I've had about tens of thousands of groups now that I've worked with, and I see this all the time. I see stage 4 cancer reversing. I see deafness. We've had a deaf woman after chemotherapy get her hearing back, and more. We see people healing their finances, or getting a new career, or their baby who is in intensive care, coming out of intensive care and being a normal, healthy baby after doctors have said this child is probably not going to make it, and on and on and on. Even people finally doing the work in their lives they were born to do and have always wanted to do. So the group seems to supersize everything. And that is the remarkable thing to me. Because I mentioned altruism. There are group effects. There's certainly the power of intention. But I think the big secret sauce here is oneness, that sense of oneness that I talked about, that people experience like a Buddhist monk in ecstatic prayer. But here's the amazing thing of it, Jane. You know, it takes years to become a Buddhist monk. It takes hours of priming to become a Sufi master, doing the whirring and the chanting and the dancing. Our students, remember in that study, got into that head space, that brain space within a minute. And we only do this for 10 minutes. So I always look at a Power of 8 group as a fast track to the miraculous.
Yeah. Well, I remember reading your book, The Field, many years ago. That was, I think, your first book. And I love that idea that everything is connected. And you called it the 0 point field, a sea of energy that reconciles mind with matter, classic science with quantum physics, and science with religion. And that just seems to make a whole lot of sense to me.
Absolutely.
Because you are a scientist. You're not just a spiritual teacher. You are a scientist as well.
I'm not actually a scientist. I'm a science writer, however, and I've probably studied so much science and so much medicine that maybe they ought to give me a degree in it. But no, I've written about science now for 35 years, essentially, and came into this just because I was curious about things like spiritual healing. How come you can take a thought and send it to someone else and make them better? There was nothing in our current scientific paradigm to explain this. But once I started delving into pioneering quantum physics, I found there was indeed a 0 point field, and it's the term given to it by quantum physicists. That subatomic, essentially energy web that unites all of us, and that you can see it provides us with an explanation of how we can do these things beyond our senses.
And there's more and more awareness of this, I think, nowadays. I mean, people like Deepak Chopra have been talking about this for years, but it's only more recently, I think, that these ideas are becoming more accepted.
I think you're absolutely right, Jane. Those were the really early pioneers, somebody like Deepak. But now it was considered woo-woo, and now we recognize that there's nothing woo-woo about it. And that's the thing about my work. There isn't much woo-woo about me, even though I do work helping people to live the miraculous, and I try to prove the impossible. But I'm always coming back to, here's the actual science for this. And it's not strange woo-woo out there people. It's people in Princeton University demonstrating this, and MIT and University of Arizona and University of California, all happening in little laboratories where people are making these extraordinary discoveries that don't come out to the mainstream, nor do scientists usually say, okay, well, what are the real implications of this? They're taught never to stray beyond their experimental findings. So that's really where my work comes in. And also trying to help people see, okay, the implications of this mean you're far greater than you've been told. And you have capacities you've never understood. So let me help you live them.
I'd like to ask Lynne, actually, so me and Jane just watched that, right? And I was completely, you get very moved by seeing something like that, that actually
Yeah.
somebody has a healing, okay? So you've seen this countless times. When you hear somebody's ill now, or even somebody might be close to you is struggling with something, do you have a totally different outlook on this whole area now because of your experiences?
Yeah. First of all, I think of cancer, and I always tell people it's an inconvenience. It's not a death sentence. And remember, I wear two hats. So I have my intention hat and Power of Eight hat. And I've also been the co-editor of a magazine called What Doctors Don't Tell You for 35 years. And we've covered every possible illness and the alternative or integrative treatments that can help people. So I've seen there's so many areas of healing that I know are beyond what the conventional medicine says. And so I always feel very positive about healing and always feel very positive about almost any kind of manifestation because I've seen it so often.
Yeah.
So it does give one a real sense of human beings having so much, as I said before, so much greater capacity than we've been told. And I see we are quite remarkable. Our ability and our ability to see beyond our senses, to intend and create our world, even out of time. Even out of time. I mean, that's a lot of work that I do more recently is also time travel intention. Now, I don't mean physically time traveling, but I mean dealing with the energy of the past or the energy of the future. And that also, as any quantum physicist will tell you, there's no such thing as time's arrow as we think, a forward going linear time. It's much more like one big smeared out now. And that also is very liberating.
That's interesting, isn't it, Jane? Because you can
Yeah.
maybe people have traumas in the past, and I think Lynn is saying that they can go back and maybe change
Yeah.
the vibe
You
around
know,
that.
yeah. Now we do work on that, and I'm currently doing a course with my husband, Brian Hubbard, called Heal Your Past, that we've taught many times. You don't go back to heal what happened or change what happened. You change your response to it. You change the energy around it because that's what, as my husband has talked about, he's done work. He has a whole program called Time Light. That essentially the core of it is time is an energy, not a dimension, and that you change that energy, you take back your power, and that's a lot of the work that we do.
Well, it's like that expression. It's never too late to have a happy childhood.
Absolutely, it's never too late to have a happy childhood. Absolutely, and it's essential to have one because they find out now with the 18 adverse childhood events that which doctors are talking about. They find people live much, much shorter lives if they've had those kinds of events and haven't really dealt with them. So that's what we try to do. But look, it also starts with understanding the power of intention, which is what I'm teaching at our event in Dublin.
Yeah.
Knowing how to do it properly and effectively and supersizing it in a group. And that's what I hope people will leave with after a day of working with me.
Well, it sounds brilliant, Lynn. And I think, Paul, I think we can probably leave it there because
yes,
that's a wonderful
I'm definitely
way to
going,
end.
Jane. Are you? I'm definitely going to this.
Of course.
Not just because I have to.
I love the whole concept of power of intention and having, I've had Wayne Dyer before and his power of intention, and you are very much on a similar path to him, but you're still doing it, and you're doing it in such a global way. It is totally inspirational.
Thank you,
Jane,
so
would
much.
you mind, sorry, Lynn, would you mind, Jane, just telling people about the early bird offer that we still have on the go? I think we'll keep it active for another week or two, will we, after this video? Is that okay?
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
you go ahead and tell people as we finish off.
Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, if you want to sign up to this week, basically till the end of next week, the early bird offer is 120 euros for the day. But after that, it goes to 150. So please do sign up as soon as you can. And it's going to be an amazing workshop. You've heard Lynne now in person talking about it. She will be here on the 19th of October. And I, for one, am really looking forward to it.
I absolutely think well, book clubs are good, but we need to set up Power of 8 clubs all over this country.
Yes.
And start
Yes.
to help people manifest and heal. Imagine, Jane, let's do one. We're local. Let's do a Power of 8. Are you on?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay. Thank you so much, Lynne, for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Jane and
Lynne.
Paul.
Thank you.
Thank you,
It's been
Jane.
my pleasure.
Yeah,
Thank
it's been
you.
great. Thank you.